Hey guys, so I'm going to record a tutorial for modeling kind of the torso and arm and hand area. So I start with my cube. I need to apply, or I need to go apply a new material. Oh, didn't work. There we go. We're going to go with the Lambert, and I'm going to crank that transparency down so I can see the image underneath. Alright, then I'm immediately going to turn off symmetry for this part, and add a division down the middle on this side and a division down the middle on this side. I'm going to move these in, so I'm going to start symmetry again. Just going to start scaling this, kind of make a more rounder shape for the body here. And in the side view, we can dial these in a little bit more. I'm going to scale this, rotate it to match my drawing. And I don't want you guys to work super high poly, right? So, like, let's keep it real simple, and let's keep it low poly. Because if you start getting if you start getting a lot of divisions on this, it's going to be impossible to kind of make right, because you're just going to be, it'll be such a slow process then. And I'd like you also to not model with 3 mode or smooth preview on, because you can fall into some similar traps where things look great in 3 mode, but when you actually look at where your polygons are in space, it kind of just ends up looking awful. And so we don't want that. We want nice clean geometry, and I'll show you how to do that. And also, remember, no n-gons. I'm going to extrude to make this. So my goal right now is to make the hole that I'm going to extrude the arm from, and I want that hole to be, usually I like making the arm at about 12 faces. So if I make a cylinder, then I would rotate this out to where the arm is. This is just a fake arm I'm doing for the meantime. Let me go into, there we go, subdivisions axis. So if I make that 12, this is kind of the resolution, or like, this is how many polys I like to keep on the arm. And that's because, one, it's an even number, so I can make the sides symmetrical, but also the tops and bottom. Like if you look at this cap, it's symmetrical across and up and down. So I really like that. You can also use 16. But I like to keep things simple, so I'm going to go with 12 for now. And as always, we can up-res it. We can add more subdivisions if we're running into problems with density of the mesh, you know. So right now we only have 6 on there, right? Because if you imagine me extruding these out, that's only 6 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to need to go in there and cut. And I'm going to use that new tool I just showed you. I'm going to open up Mesh Tools. That insert edge loop, but insert with edge flow. So let's see what that does. See how it kind of pops it out, gives it some volume. I really like it. That tool for that specific purpose. I find it really nice. There we go. Move that back to align with my picture. And then I finally check the front view and realize everything's out of whack. So let's move these. Since this one has like all that shoulder pad stuff on it, I'm gonna kind of match based on this one. So this vert right here is basically the start of that armpit where your pectoral kind of binds to your arm. So find that on your drawing. For us, it's going to be like right there. And then move your shoulder. Yeah, like the top of the shoulder should be where this edge loop goes. And I can already tell in my design that this collar right here is going to be a big problem because it's going to overlap a lot of topology that I'm going to want to lay in there. But we'll just figure out how to deal with that. It's fine. And that's where the real kind of puzzle solving of modeling comes into play. Where you're like, okay, how do I make this without making my geo, like how do I make this collar shape without making my geo look crazy, you know? So there we go. We got that. Now, if you count up the faces, it's still not enough because I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I only have 8. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more multi-cuts. And I could do it this way, or I could do it this way. I'm going to do it this way because I find that otherwise I'm going to get some weird, like the side, the front and back faces will get too high res, but then these top ones and side ones never get more detail on them. So I want this to be more round, right? I want more resolution on this side from now. So I'm going to go into the insert edge loop. And remember that has the insert with mesh flow or with edge flow on it. And I'm going to go in. I'm going to kind of smooth out the placement of these, kind of make it more even, you know. I'm going to move this to be more horizontal right there because it was kind of askew. I'm going to move this to be right on top. Yeah, okay, so you see how I'm kind of spacing these out to be more ring shaped. We never want to have, we kind of want to avoid, like, you see how pinched these verts were together compared to these ones. We kind of want to space those out a lot smoother. And that'll just give us a more appealing mesh. Now I'm going to do the same for these segments. Here we go. Because we want to set this all up before we start making more, like, way more polygons, you know? Because that way we don't have a bunch of vertices to move when we get to the real deal. So now is when we extrude, and you'll see that everything moves. This is a problem with symmetry. So I'm just going to select all those faces that I just extruded. And remember, when you extrude, you have to move it immediately or undo it because otherwise you'll have overlapping faces. Now that that's fixed, I'm going to, now that they're like separated, I'm going to go back into symmetry mode. I'm going to go to the side view so I can see how far I have to pull this out. And I'm going to scale it down on all axes and make sure it's flat on X. And there we go. So that's about where the wrists end up. Okay. So now we need to make the hand. And remember, these this wrist shape, right, is going to be, it has 12 sides to it, right? So we're going to make the hand separately and kind of attach it on. Because I find if you're working with this pre-existing shape, it kind of messes with where your shapes need to end up. And your hand might look a little bit more oblong and like round like that. So I find kind of modeling it separately and then attaching it always kind of makes it more, makes it easier to visually understand. So I'm going to move this. This is going to be my palm. So my palm on my character kind of ends there, right there. And I'm going to turn off symmetry for this. Yeah. And I'll move back to the wrist right there. And then let's solve the scale of it in the side view. So this needs to kind of end right there. And start right there. And you'll see that our wrist is definitely misaligned. Turn symmetry back on. Even though it doesn't really matter, because when we attach this, it's going to be asymmetrical, and we're going to have to mirror it anyways. I'm still going to just keep that on. Now I'm going to turn it off, because I'm going to go back to here. Now remember, this has 12 spans, right? It has 12 spans around the surface of it. So this needs to have 12 as well. But right now, I'm just going to add 3 cuts. So I have basically where my fingers are going to come out from. And in our drawing, this surface is kind of thick. It's kind of very thick. Move that down. And I don't think it's quite correct. So I'm gonna kind of round out this shape. Round out this one. Whoops. Excuse me. Round out this one. And I'm also going to get that sort of, you know how your knuckles kind of arc towards the back, towards the pinky? And a little bit towards the front. So I'm going to already make that shape in there. And you'll notice that this these edges only add up to 12. So we need to add one more cut. And there we go. We can go in and kind of scale those up to where we need them to be. So we're pretty far along now. We got the palm ready, knees weak, arms heavy. And if we go start extruding these fingers out, it's going to start looking a lot more like our like your traditional hand. So I'm going to go into the side view, just to make sure I'm lining these up properly. Just make it, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So this will be good size. And I'm going to kind of scale these top and bottom edges in to make a to make sure that they're getting skinnier throughout as the fingers go on, because your fingers on your hand do the same, you know. So we're gonna mimic that. These verts are all out of whack, so I'm gonna move them, scale them down, move them over. So we got a nice scale on those. Now I'm gonna move these. Alright, so I'm gonna select all those now and then scale them in. So this is looking pretty good now. I'm gonna kind of make this a bit skinnier. It's a bit weird. But now we're missing a big part, also known as the thumb. So I'm gonna go in that side view, and you'll see this is where the pit of the thumb is. So I'm gonna make a multi-cut right there, and I'll be able to just extrude out. If I move this vert and this vert towards each other, let me get a nicer shape. And you'll notice this is only 6 faces, but I'm going to want 8 for a nice bit of roundness for this object. So I'm going to add a multi-cut and then scale those. And notice how in real life your thumb kind of it rotates along its length, right? Because it's opposable. So your thumb in Maya is going to need to do this as well. So I'm going to kind of give it that more relaxed end pose by rotating each extrusion that I do. And then, whoops, and then 2 mode. Well, didn't need to do that. And you'll notice that it doesn't fit my drawing very much, so I'm going to go back and adjust that. So Granny here's got kind of a thicker hand. Oops, it's like top face, I don't want that. Got a thicker hand and some tiny little fingers. So we're gonna probably just compromise on that size. We're not gonna stick 100% to our drawing because I find small fingers are always really annoying to animate with, because like if you have to grab around something, it just does not. It's not gonna play nicely. So I'm gonna select, because I need to extrude these faces again. So I'm just gonna select everything and then deselect what I don't want. I always find that works pretty well for these types of selection scenarios. So I'm gonna, align that last edge right there. And it's looking pretty blunt, so I'm gonna move this back. Gonna keep messing with these verts as well. These verts kind of look a little bit strange right there, so I'm gonna align those better on this face. You see the thumb kind of splays out more in the reference drawing, like more outward. So I'm going to do that as well here. And to do that, I'm going to use soft selection. You can activate that by pressing B, and you can deactivate it by pressing B as well. So with soft select active, you can kind of move. This will be more viewable in this perspective. You can kind of move your mesh like this. You see how everything touched by the gradient kind of also moves, and it has that fall off. So we're going to move this, we're going to expand it to where it's only the size of that, and note that I have in my soft select settings, it's set to surface. Normally it's set to volume. So if I were to do that as well, you see it's getting more of that finger, but if I go to surface, it's going to abide by that surface that I have selected. And so I'm going to scale that up. Go into that side view again. I'm going to expand that out. So now we need to fill, because it kind of moved this vert over a lot. So we need to kind of move that back. And these ones look a little bit strange, so I'm going to space those out evenly. Alright, so the thumb is in there now. I need to fix this as well. So yeah, you'll notice that a lot of this is just messing around with those verts. That's kind of what modeling is. I find it very relaxing. But we're about to find more of the puzzling aspect of it, which I find to be probably the most interesting part of it to me. I'm gonna kind of move these faces in. Because that's kind of how a hand is, you know. Right? It's got that like divot in the middle of it. So I'm gonna set that up there. Now for the fingers, you'll notice they're super blocky, but I want to have those, instead of just being this 6 subdivisions, I want to have 8 on there. So what I'm going to do is, and it just kind of makes sense, is to basically model it separately, right? So I'm going to go to extract, mesh, edit mesh, and then in the faces, extract, and you have to be in face mode to do that, because it was in that face panel. And I'm going to, let's see if our insert edge loop with edge flow does anything nice for us here. Not much of improvement, so I'm just going to use regular multicut. So I'm going to set that edge in there, and I'm going to start making it more round, right? Because our fingers have that nice round shape to them. They're a little bit squarish if you kind of look at them head on, but I'm sure that varies based on whose hand you're looking at. Mine happens to be a little bit squarish on each finger, so I'm gonna kind of skew it towards that shape as well. You know. And in these parts, I'm going to kind of push in these verts, push in these verts to make that round tip. Push these ones in as well, so you get that more roundness there. You know, I might actually scale all of these a little bit more to get a nicer tapering of the finger. And here's the thing for all of your mesh, is that you need to add subdivisions at each joint. And think about the finger joints. You have one in the knuckle, you have one right here, you have one right here. So you're going to need subdivisions over each of those lengths, right? So I'm going to add one for that last digit, and the second to last. I'm going to kind of move those, and I'm scaling them in to keep my length from getting out of control. You might hear some banging because they're doing some work on my apartment, but that's fine. So here we go. We got that all sorted out. And the thing is if you go in and set up, you only leave these subdivisions and you set up joints. If you try to rotate them, like imagine this being the joint that's in there. If you rotate them, you'll see that they deform pretty weirdly. Like it kind of crumples in on itself here. So you need to add a few more loops to support that, and I always just do I do one before and one after on each of these. You'll see I do the same here. I'm going to kind of sink in this part of it. Now you notice my finger's a bit fat, and the problem is that the reference is kind of like that, so I'm gonna skew it away from that. I'm gonna go into vert mode. I'm just gonna kind of scale these down. I'm going to need a different pivot point for this, so I'm going to hold D. I'm going to kind of scale from there. I'm going to deselect these and move the rest of these up to get that nice round shape again. Because scaling it kind of compressed all of them together. So that's the end sort of finger shape that I want. And remember, you need multiple subdivisions for each digit, right? So I'm going to do one right there. And this should be good. This should be good for animating. I might want to add one more in between each of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just to maintain that mass, right? Because there's going to be a lot of joints in here over a small amount of space. My pivot points are all whacked out when I select these, so I'm going to go to my tool settings. You can find them from here. You click that hammer. I'm just going to reset that because I didn't know what exactly was going on there. I've noticed that's more of a problem in 2019 than 2017 because modeling in 2019 I never really ran into that issue. So now we have our finger, and you can go in and on each of those digits you can kind of just scale those out, because if you look at your fingers, they kind of bulge out at the digits, especially this second one. But I think since Grandma's wearing gloves, I don't think that's super necessary for me, but I'm just saying for you guys if I want to. So now I'm going to go into object mode, and we only have one finger done, right? And it'd be kind of a waste to go into each other finger and do it individually. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate it once, move it, duplicate it again, move it, duplicate it again, and move it. So now we have these different fingers that have our topology laid out already. So I'm going to go into move pivot mode, which is D. So I'm holding D, and then I'm also snapping with V. So I'm snapping to that middle one. And I'm just going to rotate it over to where I need it to be. Then I'm going to scale it down. And I want to make sure that it's not losing too much thickness. I'm going to scale it a little bit more. And remember, if I went into world mode, you'd see how it's kind of skewing that. I need to go into object mode, so that's holding R and holding left click over the mesh, because this is a local rotation on that. Local meaning to that object, not to the world. And I'm going to do the same for here. DV, snap, rotate, and then move, scale to match the length of it, and then I'm going to scale a little bit as well there. I'm going to rescale this middle one as well, because we kind of end up making all of these a little bit more thick than they were before. Same thing with pinky, DV, rotate, move, and scale. Oh, let me rotate and scale it down to match that silhouette. That's the other one. If I go back into 5 mode, you'll notice that this one's way too high, so I'm going to move it down. Same with this. I'm going to kind of push this one up a little bit, because whenever if you look at your hand straight on, you'll see that your middle and index fingers are kind of higher up, but the middle one's like pretty much the highest out of them all. So now we're going to go in and just select in face mode all of our fake old fingers. And you'll see now kind of where we're going to line up stuff to to each other in this. So let me move this edge up to here. This vert right there. So we're going to try to get, like, our goal now, and this is where the puzzle comes in, is to have enough segments in this. It'll be easier if I turn on wireframe mode for you guys right here, wireframe unshaded, because we have basically 2 spans right here, like two edge loops right here, but only 1 on here, so we need to split that up. But remember, the back of our hand has 12 right now, right? I'm going to delete this so we can't mess with that. This hole has 12, and this hole is 12. And we need to merge these together in the future, right? So our puzzle now is to have this same amount of edges, but add more detail to this side. And so we couldn't just go in and multi-cut, because now we're gonna have too many edge loops right there, right? So this is where edge flow really comes into play, because you're going to need to move this. You're gonna move these. This is just me fiddling with stuff, but you're gonna need to figure out a way to make those cuts, but then also conserve the edges at the back. And edge flow, meaning like how these edges kind of flow around, is going to need to be diverted to kind of create that topology. And I'll show you how. So I'm going to just go in. I'm going to start making cuts where they need to be. And I know they're tries, and I told you to avoid tries, and please do. I'm going to fix these. Dun, dun. Just going in, making tries where they need to be. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom. And I'm going to kind of scale these in, right? Because this is, imagine this as like the webbing of your fingers. So if I scale those in, now we kind of have that webbing, right? But I want there to be some more articulation in this. Like I don't want to just seal these up next to each other, right? So if we go in here and multi-cut, because if we just seal those fingers up next to each other, it's going to be kind of hard for them to move around independently. So if we multi-cut here and here, same with here, and note we are making a bunch of n-gons right here, a bunch of n-gons. Like, this is not okay, but we're gonna resolve it, because sometimes you just have to make n-gons or faces with more than 4 sides. Sometimes you just have to make them, right? And so you can see how that webbing's kind of starting. Like if I move this down, you can see that it's creating that sort of shape. And I'm going to go into see, now I could just bridge these to have them there for reference. I think I'm going to do that actually. Yeah. So I'm just going to bridge these across. Now, if you just select the two on the bottom that you're going to hook up with the 2 on top, then bridge just going to make those in there. I'm going to bridge those as well, and our goal is to have the segments match up, right? Because we need to sew these together. Not in terms of UVs, but in terms of mesh, we need to kind of get those working together. So we need, now, if you look at this, no. If you look at this edge, you'll see that there's 8 sides to it, so we can easily match that up. But this stuff right here is all messed up, so we need to go about solving this. And if I go into vertex mode, you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 side verts on this, which is not good. So the way I'm going to solve that is by going in. I'm just going to target weld across on these. I'm going to do it again right here. And I'm just doing this to get like a placeholder of where my knuckle is going to be, right? Because that knuckle has to be higher than the rest of it. And I'm going to move this to align with the other knuckle for the index finger. There we go. And in face mode, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that is technically a quad, but it's really dumb because you can just look at it. It looks awful. I'm going to go do the same thing with this these bottom parts. What I can do here though is, and I could have done this on the top, is just merge to center, and that merges all of your components that you have selected to the center. I'm just press G to repeat that tool there. So I'm going to kind of start moving this stuff around. Yeah, this can end up nicely. But you'll see there's a bunch of tries here, right? And I was like, don't model with tries, guys. And I wasn't lying. I was not lying. So you'll see how I'm going to fix these sorts of tries. And for instance, if you look at this one, I'm just going to mesh combine these together. And so now they're one object, but they're not the same mesh. So whenever you do mesh combine, you need to think about how they're still separate, right? Like we never merged any vertices. So that's what we need to do now. So I'm going to go into target weld mode. Oh, see how it selected a bunch of other verts? Because it already had this one selected before. I'm just going to click on one and not do anything. Just click off really quick. And it's going to refresh that selection. That's nice to know it's still a bug. That was a bug in 2017, which is 2 years old. I guess it's not technically a bug because it was just remembering our selection from before. So I'm sealing all these up. It's kind of hard to see because these are pretty much aligned. I'm going to merge this over, merge this over, merge this over, merge this over, merge this over. Alright. So now you'll see in this view, let me make sure that these are welded together. Yeah. Yeah. And you can check to make sure that they're all welded together by pulling all the faces and looking from the side. Yeah, looks like they're welded. I'm gonna scale these down a little bit. And I'm going to scale these out. Because the webbing of your hands doesn't look like this blocky shape, right? So you're going to kind of move those in and scale them. So we have this set up now. And this is a try, but if we just target weld, you see that became a quad. And still kept this nice diagonal loop, because we need that to get that kind of webbing effect, right? I'm going to do the same on the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and connect, mesh combine the rest of these, and then sew them up. And I'll just do that right now. Alright, so now I have my fingers lined up. And oh my god, look at how skinny this thumb is. Alright, 1 second. I need to fix that. Let me note when the time was 4:06 to skip. And alright, so we're in our scene. I'm going to fix some of this webbing stuff. It's a little bit askew. But now we sealed up all of our edges here, right? But we still have these tries here. Boom, 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 boom. But we need them to be nice quads. So I'm gonna have to divert their edge loop. Like this edge loop. I have to divert that to somewhere else. So I can do that by cutting across here. And deleting this edge. So now you see this loops into, oops, loops into itself. Doesn't down here because I didn't cut that yet, but if I do it right here, and there you go, that puzzle is solved. And you'll see this side one, we still have tries there, but that one's easy enough to deal with as well, because you just go in and delete that edge. And there you go. And so now you have some nice quads over all of it. Alright, now we need to, I'm going to try to make a sort of retaining edge loop around here to kind of keep all the front knuckle and finger edges separate from the rest of the hand, because I want a little bit more posability in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start multi-cutting past all those, all that fingertip geo, or front like palm geo. So I'm going to start cutting there. You'll notice that I just made end-gons right there and right there. And we need to solve those now. So, yeah, just making sure I'm recording. So if we go in, we're going to need to start cutting these. However, we're going to run into some problems. Because we basically want an edge loop here. From here all around the finger. And the problem is that you have these like triangular you have these tries that are leading into the thumb. So we kind of need to go around those. And if I just cut straight through, you'll see where it starts making those different edges. And so we have a bunch of tries there now, and this end gone. So I need to one, separate out this edge onto its own edge loop. So if I go in here, just select around, I'm going to move this back and kind of scale it. Oops. So that needs to have its own span. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Oops. And then connect that to the thumb. So now the thumb is on its own loop right there. Then we can go in and resolve all of these different try problems that we've been having. And remember, this, we're adding subdivisions here to give us more posability when we eventually put joints in this. Oh, there's an old try there. I didn't see. Deleting that. So this needs to hook up with that. So I'm just going to cut across and make some really nasty triangles to start with, and we'll figure it out from there. And I can make this a quad by, oh fuck, so just left click to refresh your selection on there. And that's one quad right there. Oh, this geo wasn't even made yet. Interesting, sorry guys, I need to fix this real quick. Not target weld, multi-cut. Right there. Delete these edges. Sorry, I'm just checking the sides to make sure that they're the same. Yeah, they're looking good now. Now you guys could probably leave it like this at this level, but I'm gonna kind of try to figure out how to make this all quads, right? And I think the best way to do that for this area, because it needs to loop into the thumb still, so I'm going to cut across down here. And then that one. Yeah, so I'm going to move this vert over to be more in the middle of that knuckle. And then I'm going to cut across there as well. I'm going to go into edge mode. I'm going to bridge. just to bridge across that. I'm going to multi-cut across that. And target weld. And you'll see that that way I still have the same amount of I did this target weld so I'd have the same amount of edges right there to be 12, right, to sew up there. And then I should just be able to delete this edge, and there you go. And I'd probably take more time to kind of arrange these in a more appealing manner, like soft select, kind of push these in, push these around, because if you don't like fix this kind of messiness, you're gonna see it across your model. Then, like if you just keep letting these like little details kind of mess up, you'll see it across your model. But in the thumb now, and I'm going to use insert edge loop with the edge flow. I'm going to add divisions to this, right? Because this needs to be, this is where joints are going to be, so we're going to need to have these be more posable, and I'll have better deformation this way. And one last step on this is, you'll notice if I turn off wireframe, it's all blocky. So I'm going to go in and soften edge. You'll see now that's what our hand is looking like. I'm going to move these edges in. So this is the hand done, right? You'll notice Grandma has a glove. I'm not going to show you how to make the glove because a lot of you might not have gloves, or if you have gloves, they won't be like spread out over the wrist like that. So it'll be more form-fitting. So I feel like the tutorial will work better for that. But we need to hook this up to the main mesh now. So I'm going to go into mesh. And I'm going to select both of them, then combine. And then I'm going to go into vert mode, target weld. I'm just going to start target welding. There you go. There we go. And we kept them the same amount of divisions, which is pretty key to keep track of. And now they're the same mesh. And you'll see that part of it's see-through because it has that old material. So I'm going to add existing material. I believe that's like, what, Lambert 4? Oh, wait, no. See, this is why it's good to name your materials. It's Lambert 5. So if I go into the material attributes, if I go into material attributes again, there you go. And you can rename that up here. Gmod shader. Or matte. Either works. And so we have that connected. I'm going to go into mesh display, soften edge, and I'm going to add an edge loop along that arm. At the elbow, right? And I'm going to need more because that's going to need to bend. And you'll see further on that these edges are going to kind of be throughout the arm to help with deformation. And you want to keep these kind of uniform in terms of size of your individual polys. So you're going to end up with something like that, you know. And there you go, that's it. I know it's a long tutorial, it's long as hell, but it's good to see me in real time doing this stuff. There's also another modeling tutorial online, and it's in the modeling section, rather than character modeling. And that does the hand as well, so that one's probably more concise. Feel free to follow that as well. Either one's going to work. Thanks, guys.